But welcome. My name is Scott Talbot. I am Senior Vice President for Government Affairs at the Electronic Transactions Association. Real quickly, it's a trade association based in DC that covers federal congressional issues, federal regulatory issues, state legislative, as well as state regulatory issues. We work up in Canada as well and with the courts. It is my job to represent the interests of the payments industry before policymakers at all levels. Myself and my team get up every day looking to advance good public policy to make it easier for the payments industry to serve their customers, to serve the payments industry, and to keep commerce flowing. All told, ETA members are responsible for about 21 trillion in credit, debit card, and prepaid card transactions around the globe annually. What I want to talk about today is the policy environment that is both legislative as well as regulatory in Washington, D.C., where I am now, the states, and we'll even touch on a little bit of Canada. There's a lot of overlap between the two countries. First, let's start with what the outlook is for the rest of the calendar year, the rest of the current congressional session, which runs until the end of the calendar year or whenever they adjourn. I don't see a whole lot, Congress doing a whole lot of issues related to payments. We are in the throes of the elections. Obviously, the Republicans have their convention this week. The Democrats had theirs last week. So Congress is focused on that. Every member of the House, as you know from your civics class, is up for re-election, and 1/3 of the Senate is as well, in addition to the president. So everyone is focused on campaigning, keeping their jobs, and helping their fellow party members keep their jobs or get elected. So what that means is not a whole lot will get done in Congress for the rest of the year. We may see a bill to fund the government. We may see an additional package of CARES Act, so stimulus money, whatever shape that takes. We'll probably see something along those lines, not a big package that we've seen before, but those will be the main issues. Obviously, distribution of stimulus money, whether it is EIP or PPP or unemployment, the payments industry has a large role to play, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. But for the most part, for Congress, I don't expect a whole lot for the rest of the calendar year. The federal regulators, however, are a different story. They are working to create a positive policy environment that encourages the continued development and deployment of products and services that makes the financial services industry better, classified under FinTech. That is the harmonizing of tech with financial services to create FinTech. And the federal regulators are looking to encourage more of that. Our industry, the payments industry, has done a fantastic job of melding technology into existing products and creating new ones, as well as services. And the federal regulators, the FDIC and the OCC, for example, are working hard through the levers that they can pull to encourage that. So that is positive news. In terms of, that's it for Washington. In terms of the states, most states are out. Their session is over, whether it is for the fact that they didn't come into session due to COVID, or they have worked on their session and they're wrapping up. There's not a whole lot of activity at the states in general. California has one bill that will expand consumer protections. And New York is working on a couple of things, and Massachusetts, which I'll talk about a little bit later, is working on some things as well. But the states are generally quiet. Let's shift and talk about the outlook for next year. I don't know who's going to win the election, but let's assume in general that we see more Democrats, whether they take the White House, whether Vice President Biden becomes president or not, whether the Democrats gain enough seats in the Senate to have a majority and that flips, or they simply increase their majority in the House. I think it's fair to assume we will see more Democrats in Washington next year. If that's not true, we'll come back and reevaluate, but let's assume that for purposes of my remarks here. The themes that we will see next year under that type of scenario will be an increased focus on consumers, protecting consumers in general, It is politically popular to be pro-consumer and pro-small business for that matter. And it's also still politically popular to be against financial services industry, given the 2008 crisis. Unfortunately, our industry gets lumped in with that. Payments role gets included in that. So we'll see a pro-consumer sort of anti-financial services or anti-big business, and even a little bit of an anti-tech. You see calls to break up some of the large tech players. So that will be one theme. We will see another one of diversity and inclusion, righting economic wrongs. This has been a trend or focus of our industry for a long time, and we will see increased focus on it from policymakers. So those are some overall trends that we will see. Specific to our industry, we will see increased taxes at the federal level, at the corporate level, and we will see it at the individual level. Vice President Biden has pledged to raise taxes if you're making more than $400,000 and to impose or increase taxes on corporations. So we will see those new taxes at the federal level. In terms of other threats or other opportunities, there's a lot of discussion right now coming on the heels of the delivery of those COVID benefits to create federal accounts, to create postal banking, to create a central bank digital currency. They have different names, but largely there is an effort to try and ask the Federal Reserve to set up a bank account or a payment rail or both, or some combination thereof, to help increase the ability for those underserved, the low and moderate income Americans, to receive either banking services or payments, i.e. stimulus money through the Federal Reserve. Those efforts will continue into 2021. And so it creates both an opportunity and a challenge for our industry. Real quickly, when we look at the COVID benefits, our industry has, as I said earlier, done a great job of delivering those. We've helped deliver billions of dollars in economic impact payments, whether it was directly or through prepaid cards. It played a huge role here. We've had prepaid cards also played a huge role in delivering state unemployment insurance benefits, both federal and state. If you recall, the federal increased unemployment benefits by $600 a week. While that program has ended, our industry was instrumental in delivering the state money as well as that additional federal money. We've also helped deliver Paycheck Protection Program loans to small businesses. So our industry has played a pivotal role in helping with the COVID crisis. In addition, throw in online payments as well as contactless, and our industry really has stepped up to help keep business humming. So those will be important points that the industry will make when we think about the idea of creating a federal payments rail. We'll talk about how important and great role that we have played in that effort. And we will look to try and shape any new proposal to incorporate the existing structure to take advantage of all the benefits that do exist now, both for everyday Americans and low moderate income Americans, as well as the entire economy. In terms of other issues, we will see a push for increased taxes, as I said earlier. At the state level, this plays an important role. State coffers are low, and so we will see states pushing to impose new taxes or increase tax rates, broaden the base in an effort to try and replenish those taxes. We have new players on the scene, marketplaces like Amazon, eBay, and Etsy, who are central to distributing products. And so states are looking to those marketplaces in an attempt to ask of them to calculate, collect, and remit sales taxes. It's simply easier for the state to work with those entities rather than going after the hundreds of merchants or thousands of merchants that utilize those types of sites. Another area that is a challenge is up in Massachusetts, and that is a proposal to create a real-time sales tax. This proposal, if enacted, would push out the calculation, collection, and remittance of sales tax, the sales tax portion of a ticket, to the payments industry. This would be a challenge and very expensive, and quite frankly, probably not necessary. In our view, it is not necessary. In fact, the current system is working just fine. There's no need for our industry to take a role on that level of detail and that amount of expense to play in sales tax issues. So just be aware of that issue up in Massachusetts. We are working hard to push back against that one. Other issues that we'll see, both at the federal and the state, is privacy. This is an important issue. California recently passed a law, the CCPA, the California Consumer Protection Act, which increases the rights of consumers and the controls they have over their privacy. Look for other states like New York, Illinois, Florida are all working on initiatives to increase the level of consumer rights with respect to privacy. Another area is cannabis. This is legal for recreational or medicinal purposes in over half of the states. It is still illegal at the federal level, and so we will probably see a push if there are more Democrats in Washington to make cannabis, marijuana legal at the federal level. While the payments industry in general has no position on whether it should be legal or not, our role, if it is made legal, is to serve that industry like we do all legal industries and provide the wealth of benefits that the modern payments industry has to offer to any merchant or consumer that is in that space. Same analysis for online gambling, intra-state gambling, which was recently made not illegal by the Supreme Court. So our industry is working hard to serve that industry now that it is legal as well. Those are the big themes for Washington as DC, as the federal level, as well as the state. Real briefly, let me talk about Canada, which is working on a lot of the same issues. Two issues in particular I want to raise is the Canadian Parliament is working to impose new rules for retail payments oversight. It's called the new Retail Payments Oversight Framework. If they are able to hold their session, I would look for new rules on the new players, new entrants into the payment space. Things like registration, holding funds in trust accounts. So things along those lines, new regulations to help shore up, to modernize really the regulatory framework to account for new players. Another area that Canada is working on, and we see a similar theme in the US, is open banking. This is the concept that allows a consumer to see all of their accounts, all of their financial accounts in one place, and thus allowing them to shop around for various products, to see different offers, to help share information, and strengthen and enhance the consumer's financial literacy, understanding. And so this is something that Canada is working on, and we see the US is starting to work on it as well. Those are the major themes. I'm more than happy to answer any questions if you'll use the chat feature. I can see it, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. I'll wait for the questions to come in. I understand there's a little bit of a lag. So please use the chat box to send me. I see a bunch of people saying hello. Hi, everybody. And while we're waiting for the questions to come in, I wanted to drill down a little bit on what the federal regulators are doing, just to give a little more flavor there. I know I glossed over it pretty quickly when we first started, but let me just sort of touch on it. The OCC, the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency, they regulate national banks. They are working on creating a special payments charter. Right now, if you're a payments company and you would like to operate in the US, you need to get a license in all 50 states. It's a very time-consuming and expensive proposition. It'll take you about 1.5 years and cost you $1 million to get up and running. And so the OCC is offering is a federal charter that would allow one-stop shopping and allow a business interested in entering the money transfer, the payment space, to get one license at the federal level through the OCC, and thus be able to operate in all 50 states instantly. So there is some appeal to this approach. Obviously some challenges that have to be worked out, but the OCC is working on this as a way to create that positive policy environment that I mentioned earlier. Next is the FDIC, the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation. You're all familiar with those, FDIC insured. If a bank were to fail, the FDIC would step in and provide coverage for your deposits. They are working on a proposal to create a self-regulatory body that would evaluate fintech companies and make it easier for banks, particularly community banks, to work with fintechs. Right now, the bank must go through its due diligence with any one of its partners before it can work with them, given the sensitivity of the information that's involved. And so the FDIC is working on creating a body that would bless fintechs and make it easier for a community bank to play in the system. So that would accelerate the ability of community banks and all banks really to adopt new fintech solutions. All right, we've got a question here about what role would Senator Warren play if former Vice President Joe Biden wins in November? So great question. Senator Warren is the senior senator from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. She is a Democrat and has been very pro-consumer. My guess is, we don't know for sure, but my guess is she would probably ask to play a major role in a Biden administration. There's talk about her being Treasury Secretary. There's talk about, that's really the main role that's being discussed for her. While the Treasury isn't a regulator per se, it does have a lot of influence over financial policy. And I would expect, were she to become Secretary Warren, that she would continue to push her pro-consumer agenda. She was the genesis for the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau that we have in Washington. So watch for her to play a role. Even if she's not asked to be Treasury Secretary, she'll still have a large voice in the administration from her role in the Senate as one of 100 senators. Another question coming in, major regulatory themes in the states. That's a good one. I touched on it a little bit earlier, but I'll repeat them real quickly. New taxes, both increasing the rates, broadening the base, sales tax collection, whether it's through marketplaces, or a real-time sales tax is the proposal in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Privacy will be a big theme as well, and we'll see very much the continued theme of pro-consumer and looking to increase diversity and inclusion and right perceived or real economic wrongs. The states will be working hard on those issues, closing the gap, filling their coffers, and then working to strengthen our economy overall. In terms of payments issues, I can see an increased focus on the ability of the payments industry to help states deliver their benefits, whether it's unemployment, the role we played and currently do play during the crisis, or other benefits that states may push out, or if Congress decides to push out more benefits, we work closely with the states to make all that happen. So those are the major themes. One last point before we wrap up here, I think we're coming up on our time, is that politics is not a spectator sport. If you are not involved in setting policy, I urge you to do so. If you're a member of ETA, please let myself or my team know. We're more than happy to help you get involved. Even if you're not a member of ETA, it's important to be part of the policy setting process. Believe it or not, you guys are more expert. You are experts, and you are more expert than the vast majority of members of Congress. So they need your input. They need your expertise and thoughts on how best to set policy in this industry. So I encourage you to get involved or increase your involvement. And I think unless there's anything else, we'll go ahead and wrap up. We're right at the time. I think there's a spotlight, and then shortly after that, the expo hall will be open. So thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate it, and I look forward to seeing you all in Washington.